They called it a family vacation. They called my condo the perfect getaway. They called me, with the casual confidence of people who had already counted the days they would be using me. Mom, would you mind staying at our place with the kids for 10 days while we recharge? By the time their plane landed back at the airport on the 10th day, they had no keys. They had no codes. They had no condo. And the police officer waiting for them in the lobby with a folder of paperwork was not, in fact, there to help them carry their luggage upstairs. Here is what actually happened. My name is Genevieve. I am 72 years old. My husband Theodore died in 2018. We had been married for 45 years. He left me, when he died, 2 pieces of property, a small split-level house in the suburbs where we had raised our daughter, and a 2-bedroom oceanfront condo on the Gulf Coast that Theodore and I had bought in 1999 as our long-term retirement plan. The condo was paid off. The condo had been ours for 25 years. The condo had been the place. Theodore and I had gone every January to escape the winter, every June to celebrate our anniversary, and every October to watch the gulls come in before the storms. The condo had become, in the 6 years since Theodore died, the place I went when I needed to remember who I was before I was a widow. I went to the condo, on average, 4 times a year. The rest of the time, the condo sat empty. It had not sat empty as often as it should have. My daughter is named Anastasia. She is 43. She is married to a man named Brennan. They have 2 children, my granddaughter Wren, age 12, and my grandson Theo, age 9, named for his grandfather. They live a 3-hour drive from me, in a city large enough to be inconvenient and small enough to be expensive. Brennan is a software project manager. Anastasia is a marketing director at a regional firm. They make, by my estimate, somewhere around $220,000 a year combined. They are not poor. They are not struggling. They are, by every measurement except their own internal accounting, comfortable. They were, however, the kind of comfortable that always seemed to need someone else's resources to maintain. Beginning in 2019, 1 year after Theodore's death, Anastasia had started asking me, with increasing regularity, whether the condo was available. The phrasing had always been delicate. "Mom, the condo isn't booked the 2nd week of March, is it?" "Just wondering. Brennan's been so stressed, and the kids have spring break, and we thought maybe." I had said yes the first time. I had said yes the second time. I had said yes, eventually, 14 times across 5 years. Each time, the same pattern. Anastasia and Brennan would drive down with the children for a week. They would stay at the condo. They would not pay rent. They would not pay the cleaning fee. They would not contribute to the property taxes, the HOA dues, the electricity, the small accumulated maintenance costs of beach-adjacent ownership. They would come home. They would send me a photograph of the children on the beach. They would thank me, warmly, in the casual phrasing of people who have already moved on to the next thing they will be needing. I had laughed each time. I had laughed because the alternative naming what was actually happening felt larger than I was yet willing to name. By the spring of 2024, the laughing had become harder. In April of that year, Anastasia had called me with what she had described as just a quick question. She had said, "Mom, listen, Brennan and I are thinking about doing some renovations at our place this summer, and we were wondering, could we maybe stay at the condo for, 4 weeks while the contractors are working, just to keep the kids out of the construction zone?" 4 weeks. In the 6 years since Theodore's death, the longest single visit had been 10 days. I had said yes. I had said yes, the way mothers say yes, in the brief moment between the question being asked and the question being understood. I had also, in that moment, made a small private note in my head. This is the last time. I had not yet told Anastasia that it was the last time. I had not yet, in fact, told anyone that it was the last time. But I had begun to count. The 4-week stay had happened in June of 2024. I had not seen the condo afterward. In late July, I had decided to drive down for a long weekend to walk through the property and check on a few small repairs the HOA had emailed me about. I had not told Anastasia I was going. I had wanted to see the condo, after their stay, in its honest state, without the pre-arrival cleanup they would have done if they had known I was coming. I had arrived on a Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. I had opened the front door. The condo had been clean enough. There were no obvious stains. The dishwasher had been run. The beds had been made. By the standards of an Airbnb, the property had been left in serviceable condition. But it was no longer my condo. The small ceramic dish I kept on the entryway table, the one Theodore had bought me on our trip to Charleston in 2000, and one was gone. In its place was a coastal-themed seashell tray that Anastasia had clearly bought at one of the gift shops near the beach and decided looked more beachy. The painting above the fireplace, a small framed watercolor of an osprey that a local artist had given Theodore in 2003, had been replaced by a poster of a sailboat in a mass-produced wooden frame. The osprey was nowhere in the condo. I would find it, eventually, in the small storage closet by the laundry, wrapped in a beach towel and pushed behind a bin of pool toys. The coffee table in the living room had a faint ring on it where a sweating glass had been left for what must have been a long time, without a coaster. The small reading chair by the window, the one Theodore had bought me for my 50th birthday, had been moved to the bedroom. In its place was a child's beanbag chair. The framed photograph of Theodore and me on our 30th anniversary, which had hung in the master bedroom for 20 years, had been taken down. I would find it later, face down, in the top drawer of the dresser, with a beach magazine on top of it. I stood in the middle of my own condo at 3:47 p.m. on a Friday in late July of 2024, and I understood for the first time in 5 years what was happening. The condo was no longer mine. It had not been formally transferred. The deed was still in my name. The taxes were still being paid by me. The HOA dues were still being auto-drafted from my checking account. But in every meaningful sense, in the sense that a property belongs to whoever is allowed to rearrange it, the condo had become Anastasia and Brennan's vacation home, with my name on the paperwork. I sat on the beanbag chair in the spot where my reading chair used to be. I did not cry. I did not call anyone. I sat for 41 minutes. Then I got up. I walked through the condo slowly, room by room. I made a list of every item that had been moved, replaced, hidden, or taken away. The list, when I had finished, was 23 items long. I drove home the next morning. I did not tell Anastasia that I had visited the condo. I did not yet have a plan. But I had a list, and I had a feeling. And I had, for the first time since Theodore's death, the clarity of knowing that something needed to change before someone else changed it for me. I want to pause here and ask you something honestly. If your only daughter and her husband had quietly converted your beloved retirement condo into their family vacation home over the course of 5 years, hiding your photographs, moving your husband's chair, taking down his memorial paintings, and if you had only just realized it on a hot Friday afternoon in July, while sitting alone in a beanbag chair in the spot where your reading chair used to be, what would you have done in the next 24 hours? I think a lot of mothers would have called their daughter that night and confronted her. I think some would have cried for a week. I think a brave handful would have rehung the photograph, put the chair back, and called Anastasia to tell her the condo was no longer available. I did none of those things. I did something else. I want to tell you what I did, and I want to tell you why. It took me 6 more weeks to do it. I needed those 6 weeks to make sure that the response I was preparing was not a response born of one sad afternoon in a beanbag chair. I needed to know, with the slow certainty of a woman who has been married for 45 years and widowed for 6, that what I had felt at 3:47 p.m. that Friday was not a passing wave of grief, but a settled and considered decision. I drove home. I made a cup of tea. I went to bed. I did not tell Anastasia about the visit. I waited. I waited for her to ask me, in the casual phrasing she had been using for 5 years, for the condo again. She would ask. I knew she would. The only question was when. She asked me at 4:14 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon in early September of 2024. She called me. She used the bright voice she uses when she is about to ask for something. She told me first, before the ask, that the children were doing well, that Ren had made the middle school volleyball team, that Theo was reading above grade level, that Brennan had gotten a small year-end bonus he had not been expecting. Then she paused, the way she always pauses before the ask. Mum, listen. I have a slightly bigger ask than usual this time, and I want you to feel completely free to say no. I noticed completely free to say no. I noticed slightly bigger ask than usual. I noticed that completely free to say no is the phrase a person uses when they have already calculated that the listener will not, in fact, say no. Sweetheart, tell me what it is. Mom, Brennan and I have been talking. We have been so stressed this year. Work has been brutal for both of us. The kids have been a lot. And we were thinking, we really need a vacation, a real vacation, just the two of us. And the question is, would you be willing to come up to our house for 10 days and stay with Ren and Theo while Brennan and I go to the condo? Just the two of us. Like a second honeymoon. We would pay for all the groceries. You wouldn't need to do anything except be with the kids. They love when you stay with them. And it would mean, Mom, it would mean so much to both of us. There it was. She had not asked for the condo for the family. She had asked for the condo for the two of them. She had asked me to come stay at her house, 3 hours from my home, in order to free the condo for her and her husband's second honeymoon. The structure of the request was the most revealing version of itself she had ever produced. The protagonist of the request was Anastasia and Brennan's marriage. The condo was a setting. The children were an obstacle she needed me to absorb. I was the absorber. I noticed all of this. I said, very calmly, Sweetheart, when are you planning to go? We were thinking the second week of October, the 13th through the 22nd. Ren has a fall break, so she'd only miss 2 days of school, and Theo's school is closed that whole week anyway. We checked with the kids' schedules. We thought it would work. Sweetheart, I will think about it. Let me call you back tomorrow. Mum, please, I know it's a big ask. We really need this. I know, sweetheart. Let me call you back tomorrow. We hung up. I sat at my kitchen table with the phone in my hand. I looked at the small notepad I keep beside the kitchen phone. I picked up a pen. I wrote, October 13 to 22, 10 days. Anastasia and Brennan, condo, second honeymoon, me with the kids. Then, underneath, I wrote, This is the question I was waiting for. I picked up the phone. I called my lawyer. Her name was Beatrix. She had drafted my will after Theodore died. She had also been the lawyer who had drafted, in the spring of 2017, a small additional document that Theodore had asked her to prepare without telling me what it was. The document had been sitting in Beatrix's office safe for 7 years and 5 months on the afternoon I called her. Beatrix had been waiting for me. She picked up on the third ring. Genevieve. Beatrix. I am sorry to call on a Sunday afternoon. Genevieve. You have called me on a Sunday afternoon exactly once in 11 years. So whatever this is, tell me. I told her. I told her about the visit to the condo in July. I told her about the beanbag chair, the moved painting, the hidden photograph, the seashell tray, the ring on the coffee table. I told her about the list of 23 items. I told her about the call this afternoon, the second honeymoon, the 10 days, the children. The condo, I had not yet been told whether I would be allowed to refuse. When I had finished, Beatrix was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, very quietly, Genevieve, the condo. Yes, the deed. In my name alone. Beautiful. Genevieve, I am going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer it honestly. Are you calling me today to find out what your options are? Or are you calling me today because you have already decided what you are going to do, and you want me to make sure you can do it cleanly? I sat with the question. I sat with it for a long moment. Then I said, Beatrix, I have already decided. I want them to think they are going to the condo. I want them to drive to the airport. I want them to fly down. I want them to arrive on October 13th at the property and discover that their keys do not work. I want them to call me from the parking lot. I want them to learn from me, on the phone, in real time, that the condo is no longer accessible to them. Then I want them to fly home, 10 days later, on the 22nd, and discover that the second part of the arrangement has also changed. I want this to be irreversible. I want it documented. I want the children protected. And I want it done without my daughter being warned in advance. A long silence on the line. Then Beatrix said, "Genevieve, that is the most precisely calibrated revenge I have been asked to draft in my career." Beatrix, I do not want you to call it revenge. I want you to call it a course correction. Revenge is what a younger woman does when she is angry. A course correction is what an older woman does when she has finally noticed that a small drift, accumulated over 6 years, has carried her so far from where she meant to be that the only way back is to change direction sharply enough to be felt by everyone in the boat. Genevieve. Yes. Theodore wrote you a letter in 2017. I have been holding it for 7 years and 5 months. I am going to bring it to your house on Tuesday morning at 10 o'nights. We will read it together, and then we will spend the rest of the morning drafting the documents you have described. He wrote me a letter. He did, Genevieve. He came to my office one Tuesday afternoon in the spring of 2017-18 months, before he was diagnosed, and he sat in my conference room for 3 hours. He drafted, with my help, a small set of instructions for what to do on the day you eventually called me about a property you owned that had stopped feeling like yours. The instructions are in my safe. I will bring them on Tuesday. I closed my eyes. Beatrix, Theodore did this in 2017. He did. He did not know what the property would be. He did not know whether it would be the house or the condo or something else entirely. He knew only that you were the kind of woman who would, in the years after he was gone, allow yourself to be slowly displaced from your own property by the people you loved most, and that on the day you noticed you would not yet have a plan, and that someone needed to have a plan ready for you, he hired me to be that someone. Beatrix. Yes. Bring the letter. Tuesday at 10. We hung up. I want to tell you something about that Monday. I called Anastasia back at 9 in the morning. She picked up on the first ring. She had clearly been waiting for the call. Mum! Sweetheart. I have thought about it. October 13th through the 22nd. I will come up and stay with Ren and Theo. You and Brennan should have your time at the condo. You have both been working very hard. Mom, thank you. Thank you. Brennan is going to be so relieved. I cannot tell you how much we needed this. It is my pleasure, sweetheart. I will drive up on the 12th. You can leave for the airport on the morning of the 13th. I will stay with the children through the 22nd. Mum, you are the best. I love you so much. I love you too, sweetheart. Drive carefully. We hung up. I sat at my kitchen table. I had just lied to my daughter. I had lied without flinching. I had lied without raising my voice, without changing my breathing, without giving any audible sign that the words coming out of my mouth were not the words my actions would match. I had lied the way a woman lies when she has been laughed at for too long by people who did not know they were laughing and has decided to stop laughing back. I noticed something about my own face in the small reflection of my microwave door. I noticed I was smiling. I had not smiled like that easily, without performance in a long time. Beatrix arrived on Tuesday at 10 a.m. She brought a leather portfolio. She brought a notary. She brought in a sealed cream envelope inside the portfolio Theodore's letter from 2017. She handed me the letter first. I broke the seal. I read, Genevieve, if you are reading this, it means you have called Beatrix about a property of ours that has stopped feeling like yours. I am sorry. I am not there to help you with it. I am writing this in April of 2017. I have spent the last 6 months watching our daughter and son-in-law take the condo for what is now the fourth Christmas in a row without asking. I have watched them rearrange the kitchen each time. I have watched them, last December, move my reading chair into the second bedroom because Wren wanted a place to do her arts and crafts. I did not say anything to them because I did not want to be the husband who made his wife's daughter feel like a guest in her own family's life. I am writing instead. Genevieve, whatever property has finally stopped feeling like yours, the condo, the house, the lake place, something else I have asked Beatrix to be ready for you. She has the instructions. The instructions are very simple. We change the locks. We change the codes. We transfer the property into a single signature trust that our daughter cannot persuade you to undo on a soft afternoon when she is crying on the phone. We make the change unannounced. We let her find out by experiencing the consequence, not by hearing about it in advance. Genevieve, I have spent 23 years watching our daughter ask for things in a voice that pretends the asking is optional. I have not been able to teach her that the optionality is real. I am sorry. I am leaving you a tool to teach her now, on a day I will not be there for. The tool is harsher than I would prefer. I do not know what choice you will make on the day you read this. I trust you completely. Whatever you decide, you will decide it, knowing that the harsher tool is available to you. I love you. Theodore. I read the letter twice. I did not cry. I set the letter down on the kitchen table. I looked at Beatrix. Beatrix. Yes. Theodore noticed the reading chair. He did, Genevieve. He noticed all of it. He never said a word. He was protecting me from a confrontation he did not think I was ready to have. He was, Genevieve. He told me, sitting in my conference room in 2017, that he believed you would only be ready to have the confrontation after the cost of not having it had become greater than the cost of having it. He said his job, while he was alive, was to absorb the cost. After he was gone, his job was to leave you the tools to stop absorbing it yourself. I sat with that for a long moment. I looked at Beatrix. Beatrix, let us begin. We worked at my kitchen table for 3 hours. We drafted 3 documents. The first was a small mechanical change, a locksmith order, scheduled for the morning of October 13th, the day Anastasia and Brennan would be flying to the condo. The order would change the locks on the condo's front door, the back patio door, and the storage closet. The new keys would be held only by me. The keypad code on the front door would also be changed. The HOA, which I had quietly briefed 2 weeks earlier through a phone call I had not yet mentioned to Beatrix, but which she now approved with a single satisfied nod, would be notified that no third party was authorized to be on the property without my written consent, beginning that morning. The second was a larger structural change. The condo was being transferred, by deed, into an irrevocable trust. The trust was named the Theodore and Genevieve Lockhart Family Trust. My granddaughter Wren and my grandson Theo were named as the contingent beneficiaries on my death, with the trust held by Beatrix's firm as trustee. Accessible to each child at age 25, the property would not pass to Anastasia. The property would not pass to Brennan. The property would skip a generation entirely. The third was the most delicate, a written notice, to be delivered by certified mail to Anastasia and Brennan on the afternoon of the 22nd, the day they would return from the airport, that explained the new arrangement, set out the boundaries of future contact, and offered a structured reconciliation path that began with 1 supervised monthly phone call and 1 in-person Saturday lunch every 6 weeks at my home for 1 full year. After that year, if the lunches had been honest and the phone calls had been respectful, we would reassess. I signed all 3 documents. The notary stamped them. The transfer was registered with the county that Friday at 4:18 p.m. The condo was no longer mine. The condo belonged to the trust. I was the trustee. The grandchildren were the heirs. Anastasia did not know any of this. She had 9 more days of not knowing. I drove up to Anastasia and Brennan's house on the morning of October 12th. I arrived at 1 p. Anastasia hugged me at the door. She told me how grateful she and Brennan were. She showed me the freshly made bed in the guest room. She showed me where they had stocked the refrigerator with what she called everything Mom likes. I noticed she had bought my favorite English breakfast tea. I noticed she had bought the small Italian-style biscotti I had told her 6 months earlier were my favorite afternoon snack. I noticed that the kindness was meticulous. Anastasia had thought carefully about what would make my stay comfortable. She had bought tea and biscotti and the right kind of soft hand soap, and a small bouquet of late-season dahlias for the kitchen table. She had bought all of this with the same careful planning she had used, in July, to remove Theodore's photograph from the master bedroom of my condo and replace it with a beach magazine. The kindness and the displacement were not contradictions. They were features of the same operating system. The system had to be interrupted. The interruption was about to happen. I made dinner with Ren and Theo that evening. I read to them at bedtime. Theo asked for a story about his grandfather, which was the third time in 2 years he had asked for a story about Theodore, and I told him the one about the time Theodore had taught Anastasia, age 7, how to bait a hook. Theo laughed. Ren, who was 12 and pretending not to be listening from the next bed, smiled at the ceiling. I tucked them in. I went to bed at 10. I slept the way a woman sleeps when she has spent 6 months preparing for a Monday morning and is finally close to it. Anastasia and Brennan left for the airport at 6 a.m. on Sunday the 13th. I had set my alarm for 5:30. I made them coffee. I packed their travel mugs. Anastasia hugged me. Brennan thanked me, awkwardly, the way he always thanked me. They drove off in the Uber I had ordered for them at 5:45. I went back inside. I poured myself a second cup of coffee. I sat at their kitchen table. I waited. The locksmith was scheduled to arrive at the condo at 9 a.m. The flight to the Gulf Coast was 3 hours, including the layover. Anastasia and Brennan would arrive at the condo, by my estimate, around 12:30 p.m. The locks would have been changed 3.5 hours earlier. The condo's HOA office, which opened at 9, would have been notified of the deed transfer first thing that morning. I had 90 minutes between the locksmith finishing and Anastasia and Brennan arriving. I used those 90 minutes to read a book on the couch. The book was a small biography of Edith Wharton. I read it without looking up. At 12:34 p.m., my phone rang. I let it ring 4 times. I answered. "Mom." The voice was different. The voice was tight, controlled, the small, careful pitch of a woman who has just discovered something she does not yet understand. "Sweetheart." "Mom, the keys aren't working. The keypad isn't working. We've been trying for 15 minutes. The HOA office is closed. We can't reach anyone." "What, Mom? Did something happen with the locks?" I set down my coffee cup. "Sweetheart, the locks were changed this morning." A pause. "Changed?" "Yes." By who?" "By me, through a locksmith, at 9 a.m. The new keys are with me. The HOA has been notified. They will not be unlocking the property for you. The condo is no longer accessible to you and Brennan." A longer pause. I could hear, in the background of the call, Brennan's voice. He was saying something I could not make out. Anastasia hushed him. "Mom, why?" "Sweetheart, we will discuss why in detail when you arrive home on the 22nd. There is also a letter you will receive by certified mail that afternoon. The letter will explain everything. For now, I would suggest you and Brennan find a hotel. There are several within 10 minutes of the property." Mom, we paid for the flights. We have 10 days off. Mom, what are we supposed to do?" "Sweetheart, you and Brennan are 43 years old. You are a marketing director. He is a software project manager. You have, between you, the resources to book a hotel room. You also have the option of flying home today. The choice is yours. The condo is not part of the choice." A long, brittle silence. Then she said, very quietly, "Mom, the kids. The kids are fine, sweetheart. Wren is reading a book on her bed right now. Theo is in the backyard with the neighbor's dog. They have had pancakes. We are going to have grilled cheese for lunch. They are perfectly safe. I am not calling this off. They are not in any danger. They are simply with their grandmother for the 10 days you scheduled with their grandmother. I will keep them safe until the 22nd. That has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the location of your vacation, which is now your problem rather than mine. She was crying now. Mom, please, I don't understand. What did we do? Sweetheart, you did in fact do something. You and Brennan did it over the course of 5 years, in small, accumulated ways that I did not have the language to describe at the time, and that I now do. The letter on the 22nd will explain. Until then, please do not call me about the condo. The condo is no longer relevant. The children are well. I will keep them well. Goodbye, sweetheart. I hung up. I sat at Anastasia's kitchen table for a moment. Then I called Wren and Theo inside. I made grilled cheese sandwiches. We ate them at the kitchen table. Wren asked me, halfway through her sandwich, if Mom had texted. I said, Mom is at the beach, sweet pea. She is taking some time with your father. They will be home on the 22nd. Wren nodded. She said, Grandma, can we make brownies later? I said, yes, sweet pea. We can make brownies later. Anastasia called me 4 more times that afternoon. I did not pick up. Brennan called me twice. I did not pick up. That evening, around 6 p.m., Anastasia called Wren's phone. Wren was 12 and had her first cell phone for emergencies. Wren handed me the phone. I picked up. Anastasia. Mom, please, please, can we just talk? Sweetheart, we will talk on the 22nd, after you have read the letter. Mom, Brennan and I, we are at a hotel. Good. That was the recommendation. Sweetheart, here is what I want you to do. I want you to enjoy 10 days at a hotel near the beach. You and Brennan can rent kayaks. You can eat at restaurants. You can have your second honeymoon. I am not stopping the vacation. I am simply not subsidizing the property. Use the days you took off. Spend the money you would have saved by staying at the condo. Have a wonderful time. We will discuss the larger matter on the 22nd. She was crying again. Mum, please. I don't understand why you're being like this. Sweetheart, I know you don't. That is part of what the letter will explain. I love you. I will see you in 9 days. Goodbye. I hung up. I gave the phone back to Wren. We made the brownies. The 10 days passed. I will not tell you that they were easy. They were not. There were 2 moments. One on the afternoon of the 16th, when Theo asked me why Mom sounded like she had been crying on the phone, and one on the morning of the 19th, when Wren found me at the kitchen table at 6 a.m., with my hand resting on Theodore's letter, which I had brought with me, sealed inside a small leather folder, because I needed to be near it, when I almost picked up the phone and called Anastasia and told her she could come home early. I did not pick up the phone. I held the line. I held it because Theodore had told me to. I held it because Beatrix had told me to. I held it because I had spent 41 minutes on a beanbag chair in late July of 2024, understanding, for the first time, that the line had to be held. Mostly. I held it because Theo and Wren needed someone to keep grilled cheese and brownie order during a week when their parents were temporarily off the grid. I provided the order. I provided the brownies. I read them bedtime stories. I helped Wren with her math homework. I took Theo to the park. On the morning of the 22nd, I packed my bag. I drove home. Anastasia and Brennan's flight was scheduled to land at 4 p.m. The certified letter, which had been mailed 5 days earlier, would be sitting in their mailbox when they arrived home. A police officer, not for arrest, but for the formal in-person delivery of an additional notice from Beatrix's firm, clarifying the new contact protocols and the no trespass status of the condo, would be waiting in their apartment building's lobby. The officer was a courtesy, not a threat. He would hand them a folder, ask them to confirm receipt, and leave. The whole interaction would take 6 minutes. I knew this because Beatrix had scheduled it. I was home, in my own kitchen, by 4:15. I made tea. I sat at the kitchen table. I waited. Anastasia did not call me that night. She did not call me the next day. She did not call me for 9 days. On the ninth day, at 7 p.m., my phone rang. I picked up. Mom. Sweetheart. A long pause. Then she said, very quietly, Mum, I read the letter. I know. Mom, Brennan and I, Mom. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I did not know. I did not see what we were doing. Mom. I read the list. The 23 items, the chair, the painting, the photograph. Mum, I did not know. Sweetheart. Yes. You did know. You moved them. You replaced them. You and Brennan moved my reading chair into the second bedroom in 2019 because Wren wanted a craft space. You took down the Osprey painting in 2022 because you thought a sailboat looked better. You hid the photograph of your father and me in the dresser drawer in 2023 because you didn't like seeing it in the bedroom when you slept there. You did all of this. You did not do it once. You did it over 5 years. Slowly, carefully, with all the small, soft sentences that pretended you were not doing it. I am not telling you this to punish you. I am telling you this because it is true, and because the first step in repairing what you and Brennan and I have done together is to stop pretending that you did not do it. She was crying. Mom, yes, I did. I did. I told myself it was. I told myself I was making it more comfortable for the kids. I told myself you wouldn't mind. I told myself, Mom. I told myself a lot of things. None of them were true. Sweetheart, I love you. The terms in the letter stand. 1 supervised monthly phone call. 1 Saturday lunch every 6 weeks at my house. For 1 year. If you can sustain those, we will reassess. The condo is no longer accessible to you or Brennan. It belongs to a trust now. It will go to Wren and Theo when they are 25. You will never sit in my reading chair again. The reading chair is back in the condo, by the way. I drove down last weekend and put it back where it belongs. Mom. Yes. I love you. I am so sorry, Mom. I am so sorry. I love you too, sweetheart. The first lunch is 2 weeks from Saturday, noon. My house, bring nothing. I will cook. We hung up. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I thought about Theodore. I thought about the letter he had written in 2017. The reading chair he had quietly noticed had been moved. The condo he had not been able to defend on his own because he had been about to die. The locksmith he had hired in advance through Beatrix on a Tuesday afternoon, 18 months before his diagnosis. The trust he had quietly built and left in a safe for 7 years and 5 months. I thought about the fact that the most important act of love in a long marriage is sometimes not what a husband does while he is alive. It is sometimes what he prepares, quietly. For the seasons of his wife's life, he knows he will not be there to see. I thought about Wren and Theo, the grandchildren. The new owners in 20 years of a small 2-bedroom oceanfront condo on the Gulf Coast that their grandfather had bought in 1999, and that their grandmother had finally, at the age of 72, taken back. I thought about the brownies we had made on the night of October 13th. I thought about the grilled cheese. I thought about the bedtime story, about Theodore teaching Anastasia how to bait a hook. I thought about the way Theo had laughed. I thought about Wren's quiet smile from the next bed. I thought about how the future of this family, the part that would still belong to my husband, was, in fact, going to be the part that lived in Wren and Theo. I picked up the small notebook I had started keeping the afternoon of the beanbag chair. I wrote 1 line. They asked me to watch the kids while they vacationed in my condo. So I met them with new locks, and I learned, at 72, that the condo my husband and I bought in 1999 was always meant to be a place where someone in this family could come back to themselves, and that for 5 years I had let the wrong people use it for the wrong reason, and that the right people, in 20 years, would be the two children I had taught to make brownies on the first night. Their parents discovered the door no longer open to them. Sometimes dignity does not arrive with shouting. Sometimes it arrives in a locksmith's truck at 9 in the morning on a Sunday in October, while a 43-year-old daughter is still on a plane and does not yet know that the condo she has been quietly converting into hers for 5 years has, in fact, finally become her son's. Then I closed the notebook and I drank what was left of my tea. And I slept the way a woman sleeps when she has, finally, taken her chair back from the bedroom, her painting back from the closet, her photograph out of the drawer, and put each of them where her husband left them. In the condo he bought her in 1999, in the chair he gave her on her 50th birthday, in the bedroom where she would, on her next visit, sit again and watch the gulls come in before the storms.